Welcome back to Light the Fuse, the only Mission Impossible podcast hosted by two men who have seen Fallout combined 75 times. Once again, this is Drew Taylor, joined by Charles Hood.
Hello.
And you just heard music from Kevin Blumenfeld, who is, I hope, deeply entrenched in a costly court battle right now with Paramount. I mean, we can hope. Just before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody that we are now available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Will be coming to more platforms soon. If you guys could subscribe, rate, and review, it would be hugely helpful to both of us. Charles really wants to hear what you guys are talking about.
I do.
We also have a newly minted Facebook page, which is Light the Fuse Pod. That's the same as our Instagram and Twitter handles. And yeah, we will be back at the end of the episode to wrap it up. But without further ado, here is Christopher McQuarrie, Part 2. You had a writer's room before Rogue Nation, right?
For very briefly, yes.
Okay.
Drew put together a writer's room.
Can you say who else was in the room?
Seth Graham-Smith.
Oh, wow.
Drew Goddard.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
I'm trying to remember who else. My problem is I'm mixing up two people, and I don't want to say the wrong one. Okay. It's been so long.
But you didn't have that before Fallout? You didn't do that?
No, did not. They wanted me to have one on Fallout, and I just said, no, I'm not going to do it. I also had writers come in during Rogue Nation and help out. There was actually there was an insistence that I bring in writers because we didn't have a finished script and everybody was panicking. And we learned it's not productive only because it's very hard to come into something like this mid-stride and very quickly learn what movie you're making and what Mission Impossible is. And lots of people, and it's not just writers, every layer of production, costume designers, production designers, cinematographers, all have a preconceived notion of what a Mission Impossible movie is, and they're almost all wrong on the first day. They've got to kind of learn through trial and error, because you're all coming to it with you're coming to it with a heightened sense of what a spy movie is. A little bit of James Bond gets in there. A little bit of Fast and Furious gets in there. And you're constantly going, no, that's more Bourne, less Mission. That's more Bond, less Mission.
Right.
Or that's just... And what everybody misses is that Mission Impossible movies they're classic in their tone and their storytelling. You're going back to to the 30s and 40s. So as they're coming in with really edgy and modern stuff, we're saying, but that's going to be relevant for a year. That's not going to. You look at De Palma's Mission. That's a timeless movie. Yeah. That'll be a movie that people 20 years from now will still go back and watch for its style and its flair. That's what we're trying to do. Tom and I are big into. I'm not making a movie for 2018. I'm making a movie for forever. A studio's always going to make a movie for right now. Got a bottom line. What do the kids want?
Yeah.
And my attitude is those kids are going to be 30 someday.
Right.
And then they're going to be 50.
And they're going to have kids.
And they're going to have kids. and then their kids are not going to come to my movie. So yeah, I don't chase after that. I'm not a big believer in that. I believe that younger audiences are migrating away from movies for reasons that have nothing to do with what's in the movies. It's what's not in the movies. They're sitting at home watching Game of Thrones, and this is something I've preached many times. They're getting the television they're watching is NC-17 if you tried to make it. And so what can I give them? By delivering I don't care what you're making today. If it's not an R-rated movie, you're making family fare. Mission Impossible is a family movie. Fast and Furious is a family movie. As edgy as you push Fast and Furious, it's PG-13.
Yeah.
That's a movie kids can watch. And you really and you got to make friends with that. You got to make friends that you're making a kids movie.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the first movie, before you went into production on Fallout, you had kind of teased that there were going to be more sort of like deep bench characters coming back for Fallout.
Yes.
Can you talk about who that was and what happened there?
For Fallout? Or,
yeah. Well, did you plan it for Rogue Nation as well?
For Rogue Nation, I wanted to do the Best of series, and I wanted to bring Maggie Q back and Paula Patton back, and
Awesome.
and all
Every
of
day
those
we were
people.
like, why aren't they back?
I know. We want those two to come back really
Yeah,
badly.
but they weren't available.
Okay.
It was simply a matter of Maggie Q was doing a series, I think.
Oh, that's right. She was in Nikita.
Yeah, and Paula Patton had, while we were still figuring out the script, we had an option on her, but she had another movie she was being offered. So I wasn't going to say, no, you can't do that movie, and then find out I got no place for Paula Patton in the movie, or I only need you for this many days.
Yeah.
So it's never a matter of not wanting those people back, and believe me, every day I hear on Twitter, why isn't Paula Patton back? Logistics is kind of the real reason. She's lovely. She's wonderful. I mean, love to have Paula Patton back.
Ask your middle management question.
Okay, yeah. We have a goofy theory about Ethan Hunt having a lot of middle management bosses, because in the first movie he's got Kittredge. In the second movie, he's got Mission Commander Swanbeck. The third movie, he's got Operations Manager Musgrave and Director Brossel. And then finally, you get to Mr. Secretary, who dies in Ghost Protocol, and then now the Secretary Hunley has now also died in Fallout.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to hear your thoughts on Ethan's boss situation. What's the future?
Is Kittredge still there?
Is Kittredge still kicking around? Can he come back?
Kittredge is kicking around, and we talked about late in post-production about calling in Kittredge to do the mission briefing.
Oh, that would be cool.
The Good Evening, Mr. Hunt. And the problem was I had been through a number of people reading the mission briefing, including Alec Baldwin. I had Alec Baldwin do it. And Alec did a very good job, but his voice is so Alec Baldwin that you were actually dozing off. It was like a bedtime story.
Soothing.
It wasn't. Yeah, he's just too, as Alec has put it, velvety. So my problem with the Kittredge thing was I didn't want to bring in Henry Czerny and then have Henry Czerny not be the right guy to deliver the story, and then not use Henry Czerny. But Kittredge didn't get fired at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've talked many times about where is Kittredge, and
You talked about Musgrave too, where he is.
Musgrave is
Anthony Hopkins.
No, Musgrave is.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
Musgrave is
Lawrence
Fishburne.
You're right, I'm sorry.
Fishburne.
Swanbeck is
Swanbeck.
Anthony Hopkins. I'm sorry.
It's they're political appointments. Guys get shuffled in and
I
shuffled
know.
out.
It
They're
just
not
seems
the
like
field
there's
guys.
a big strata in between Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, and there are they all have different titles.
Well, the IMF is the studio.
Right.
Studio heads get shifted around all the time. We always look at it as the making of a Mission Impossible movie is very much like watching a Mission Impossible movie. Yeah. And we laugh all the time that, your job on a movie is the studio says, here's your mission, go do it. And then as you're doing it, the studio goes, are you insane? You can't do that. They've gone rogue. And you, of course, go rogue, and you violate a lot of the laws that you've agreed to with the studio, and then the studio is constantly looking at you like you've gone off the rails and you're going to destroy the world. And then when it's over, everybody's like, hey, mission accomplished, let's do another one. So it's kind of that story. It's kind of that experience.
Where are you right now? I know there's 7 stages of guilt, of mourning and everything, but you seem to have the kind of different stages of you not wanting to do another Mission Impossible movie. But then we hear you say what's her name? Angela Bassett is not the mission director now. And it's like, well, why are you thinking about that if you're not coming back?
Oh, because we talked about it. We talked about it throughout the movie.
Okay.
And what I would do, and Tom is always talking, and I'm on the set of Top Gun, so Tom's like, here's the next thing. And so I came up with an entire idea for what I wanted to do with Angela's character. There was way too much White Widow, way too much Angela Bassett, Erica Sloane in the movie that you were constantly pulling back because you don't know which character at the start of the movie is going to dominate or support Solomon Lane was really going to be Rogue Nation, but it really became Ilsa and Ethan and their kind of story, and Lane became an engine that drove that story. On the very last night that Sean Harris was shooting Rogue Nation, we came up with the idea of breaking him out for Fallout. Well, I hadn't committed to Fallout at that point. I was just like, hey, here's this idea. And Tom and I just nerd out and talk story. We don't really make a plan for who's going to do what.
Right.
And I'm not precious about ideas. If you can come up with an idea, you can come up with another one. So I don't hold on to them and protect them. I've always been just whatever, take it.
Yeah.
So I outlined a whole notion of the John Lark story that fell out of the movie, the White Widow that fell out of the movie, and the Erica Sloane that fell out of the movie, all of which, by being distilled into Fallout is now a layup for any number of potential relationships. So my movie, the way Brad left the Syndicate as a tendril for someone to pick up, I've now left a multitude of tendrils to pick up for
that you
else.
will just pick up when you direct the next one.
We're just going to assume you are. I know you're not going to say anything.
It could be your little Dark Knight trilogy.
You'll know as soon as I do.
It must be a daunting thing to be staring at that from 100 yards away, knowing that you've been through it twice before.
No, it was really daunting. It was a terrifying idea going from 5 to 6, because going from having been on Ghost Protocol for a chunk of it, and really in the end, what amounted to a matter of weeks, seeing how physically taxing it was, seeing how, what Brad Bird was managing, how big and cumbersome the production was, how spectacular Brad's movie was, and then Tom saying, you should direct Mission 5. And of course, my answer in my head was, no effing way am I going to do that. And he said, who should I call? And I was surprised he was asking me. We were making Edge of Tomorrow. We were in a script session one night, and he said, who should I call? I said, I guess you'd call Brad Gray. Not thinking he would take his phone out of his pocket and call Brad Gray. Which he then did, and he went in the other room, and I heard them laughing and talking, and he came back in the other room, and he's like, okay, Brad, I'll see you later. And he hangs up the phone and goes, you're directing Mission Impossible. I never asked for the job. I never accepted the job. It was, and I was like, oh shit, now I'm directing Mission 5, but now that's down the road. We'll worry about it later. And of course, I was the whole time looking at Brad's movie as this, it is in the shadow of the Burj. It's a very, you could make a more Rube Goldberg-y sequence, I'm sure. You can't beat the location. You can't beat the design of the Burj Khalifa, the desert and the building and the glass and the sandstorm and all that other stuff. Yeah. It's a location that's screaming action, high wire act, Mission Impossible, tallest, highest, most amazing. It's very hard to beat. And the design of these movies is a big factor that doesn't get a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. You'll look at the difference between Rogue and Fallout. It's my understanding the importance of design and location over story.
Interesting.
So how did we get on this? So the dauntingness of it.
Yeah.
Now, going into 6, all the things that I was stuck on in 5 that were really insurmountable problems, I realized, I was stuck because of me. It's my fault that we couldn't figure out the third act, because I was trying to force Mission to go where it didn't want to go. I had that problem on Fallout, but far less of it. And when I would be stuck, I would realize immediately, back up. The movie is telling you, don't go this way. You can't go this way for whatever reason. Don't waste time questioning that. Just back up and go in a direction that the movie will actually let you go. Well, wait a minute. I set up this whole thing about an exchange. Don't I have to have an exchange? No, you have to keep going.
Right.
And so the movie all of the movies have slightly strange dead ends in them. all those dead ends come from months and months of suffering and shooting where that dead end was supposed to take you and then cutting it out in the editing room. And I was just like, hey, guess what? Dead end. I'm turning right. I'm backing up and turning right.
Well, we have some rapid fire questions for you, but first we were going through some storyboards, and we're going to talk to your storyboard artist,
Mark Bristol,
next week.
He's fantastic. He's the man.
But there was a note on some.
It was his idea for the Odyssey, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Rogue Nation, there were notes that you were going to shoot in IMAX for some sequences.
Correct. We were.
And
it seemed like it was even almost marketed that way. We went and saw it IMAX at the Chinese theater, and we thought there were going to be IMAX sequences.
Yeah, no, they just did an IMAX presentation of it.
But were you at one point going to shoot something for it? IMAX?
We were going to shoot the opera, I think, in IMAX.
Cool.
And it was really cumbersome and really expensive. And the problem was when we moved the release date up 5 months to get out of the way of Star Wars, there was simply no time because there's an IMAX conversion on the tail end of it, just the same way there's a 3D conversion.
Yeah.
So all of that, you have to finish your movie that much sooner and turn the whole movie over to IMAX and to 3D, and there was just no time. So we knew very early on when we decided to move the release date up that can't happen. So it was one of the first things we eliminated.
There's another interesting storyboard thing that on the helicopter chase at the end of Fallout, there's mention of a character called the Kid.
Ethan Hunt is flying with the Kid. And they're teaming up together. Can you talk about what that character is at all?
That character was Walker before Walker became Walker.
So who was chasing him?
It was like an attack helicopter, I think. Is what
I assure you we didn't know.
Oh, okay. Honest.
There was, if you ask Mark to show you early storyboards of the motorcycle chase, Ethan was chasing Lane, not Ilsa.
Oh, interesting.
And what happened was that Ilsa stole the thing from Ethan, and then Lane stole it from Ilsa. Okay. And Ethan then chased after Lane because, well, that's what you're supposed to do. And I was looking at the whole thing and really struggling with it and just saying, this is boring. This is a boring chase that ends in this really boring way.
Right.
And the chase would just be so much more interesting if he was chasing. Ding! And the light went on. And I was like, oh my God. And I changed the whole sequence and then pitched it to the actress who was our number one choice for Ilsa. And this is before we went on the cast. We had a name actor that we wanted to be.
I believe I remember who that was, but I was.
And really just we were taken down
She wasn't interested.
We were being used as a stalking horse for another.
Oh.
Basically we were being played off of somebody else
or something.
Hey, they want her for this movie, and they consumed months of our time, and then went psych. But the good news, and we lost the other actors that would have been available. And the good news is that in doing that, we ended up on a path that ultimately led us right to Rebecca Ferguson. And it's a big rule I talk about all the time in filmmaking. When it's all over, all the things that were most catastrophic and most upsetting, you look back on it and go, boy, imagine if we'd had what we wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got some quick fire questions.
Sure.
All right, yeah, okay. So we talk about Tom Cruise's different haircuts in different movies, and we talk about the ones that say always looks great. We're just wondering if you had a favorite Tom Cruise haircut in the different movies.
Tom Cruise haircut in the different
Mission
movies.
Yeah.
For
a while it was alternating short, long, and
I broke the rule.
Yeah, you broke it.
I broke the rule because it all depends on Tom's physique. Like, I've made so many movies with Tom that I'm kind of like, I understand, because depending on how Tom is like bulked up or leaned down, what looks right proportion. Everything's about proportion. Wow. Everything's about proportion. So
that's what determines the hair for both Fallout and Rogue Nation?
Absolutely. It's proportion.
But were you a fan of the longer hair in Ghost Protocol?
I like him with shorter hair.
Okay.
And his inclination for Rogue was longer hair, and I was pushing for shorter hair, and that's why you end up with
medium
schmorter hair. whatever that length you would call medium. Yes, but then I convinced him to go shorter on that, and then he was the one who pointed out at the end. He was just like, well, next one's got to be long hair. Whatever we do.
Well, so this makes me think that your favorite hair must be De Palma's original, because he's a buzz cut in that one.
Real pretty short there. I love the hair in that one.
He does. I think he looks very cool in that.
Yeah, he does look really cool.
He looks very cool in that. But again, you look at Tom over the course of many movies. While Tom in many ways hasn't aged, there's just different proportions for everything, and there's just
that's interesting. I didn't think of
that. I don't know what Tom would look like now if you gave him that. But he
haircut,
also he had it was only slightly longer in Mission 3. In Mission 3 he had a very short haircut.
Yeah. But not a full buzz.
He did not have the full Minority Report.
No.
What I wanted going into this movie going into Fallout was something more almost a little edgier.
Okay.
But then we found that haircut on the day. We were doing hair and makeup tests, and we literally had him on camera, and he would go off and just take off a little bit until we found that. It was like sculpting before we went, that's the one, that's good. Don't touch it, don't cut anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing. It's like when you hear about the guys who cut diamonds, and towards the end they spend weeks deciding about one cut or another. I was like, the hair looks good. I'm sure it can look better, but I don't want to know.
I love that.
I don't want to know. Don't screw with it.
There are BMWs throughout the series.
Yes.
So do you have a favorite BMW?
Oh God, the M5 in Fallout is my
the 86 M5.
Oh yeah, the 86 M5.
We talk a lot about my relationship with my father in this podcast because I'm always just trying to get his attention, and he's not around. But he had an 86 BMW 535 that looks almost exactly the same, and I destroyed it in high school. I ruined it. So also my favorite BMW in the series. Good for you.
Oh, I'm sorry to bring back that memory.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, he was fine.
Favorite running sequence?
Favorite running sequence in any Tom Cruise movie?
In any mission.
Mission. Let's limit it to the mission.
In any mission. I'm gonna say Fallout for the score.
Yeah.
And because
that little piano melody is
it's amazing. Have you seen the DVD? The thing that Lauren did, the breakdown.
Yeah, the different.
It's so great, but also because Tom's running on a broken ankle.
Yeah.
Throughout that whole
pretty
sequence.
amazing.
Yeah.
He also kicks a lot. I don't know if you have a favorite kick.
In Mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fight scene in Ghost Protocol where he's beating him and Renner they're beating the shit out of those guys in the and he kicks the glass table into the guy.
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty violent fight. It's a really good one.
I like the lunge kicks you have in Rogue Nation to get himself out when he's tied up at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Okay.
He kind of has to do some kicks to get out there.
Yes.
And now a really important question, and I think it's all been leading up to this, which is rank your favorite Mission Impossible movies. I know you've made several of them, but
I can't. I'm disqualified. I'm automatically disqualified.
Well, maybe you can rank the ones you haven't made,
or your top 3 your favorites.
How about the? No, there's no way. There's no way I can do that.
Lauren and Eddie did it.
Yeah,
that's good for them. Good for them, and they'll hear from the editors and composers of those movies.
Yeah, sure.
Lauren's getting a call from Hans Zimmer right now.
Well, no, he said that Mission 2 was one of his top 3, which we were both very surprised by.
Okay, then.
Love that
but yeah, I mean,
a question about the opening dream sequence in Fallout. We have to ask: is that supposed to be Lake Wanaka? Because I know you were shooting near Lake Wanaka, and that was obviously the important thing to their relationship. And so that dream wedding, is that taking place at Lake Wanaka?
This is one of the great ironies of going back to that. The reason we ended up in New Zealand was because of the helicopter chase. That was just the only place in the world that would let us do anything that insane.
Right.
And where that wedding is being shot is a place called Milford Sound. And we were looking for a place to shoot the wedding. And Milford Sound was our base for when we were shooting the helicopter sequence. But we were actually not shooting at Milford Sound on the day we shot the wedding. So we scouted that location, and I had a whole other vision for the dreams in this movie. which, like with all things Mission, you don't have time to actually sit down and work them out. And then the day comes when you're shooting the stuff and it's like, what are we going to do? And Rob Hardy and I each referenced the weird dream sequence in Mulholland Drive at the Winky. The guy goes out behind the dumpster.
The monster behind the...
Yeah. And Rob Hardy loved that sort of weird way. It was steady cam and kind of the camera was moving in a slightly weird way. And that was basically the only place to go. And on the day when we were flying out to one of the locations, we stopped, and all these helicopters, we had like 12 helicopters on our way, and we ended up stopping, and we were at Lake Wanaka. And I was like, oh my God, and I took a picture of it and I put it on Twitter. So is it meant to be? Sure. It wasn't
confirmation.
It was. I'm sorry, that should have been a quick fire question. So the answer is sure.
Who would you want to see direct a Mission Impossible movie other than yourself? Obviously, a couple names or.
Well, there's two ways to answer that. One, a director I really admire, or a director I really hate and want to see go through, and want to just experience the first time.
Or if you don't want to get yourself in trouble with someone older generation or something, you know.
No, I think there's Jeremy Saulnier.
Oh wow! Okay. Yeah,
he's a director who, that's a guy like. Have you seen his movies?
Yeah.
Have you seen The Green Room?
Green Room. He did the Netflix movie.
Yeah, Hold the Dark. Did you watch that yet?
No, I haven't seen it. I saw Blue Ruin, and I saw it completely.
That's my favorite one. I think
cold. It just came on TV. I was in London, and the BBC was like, up next, and they described the movie, and I went, oh, I'll watch 5 minutes of that, and 8 minutes into it, I was like, what the hell is happening? I really don't understand what's going on. And then I was really sucked in. It was very good. But the ruthless efficiency of his storytelling, I think, is very good.
Yeah.
That's a guy I really admire. Who directed Hell or High Water?
Oh, yeah. David Mackenzie.
David Mackenzie.
Outlaw King, right?
Yeah. I thought Hell or High Water was really an excellent movie. And again, a movie that understood elegant, uncomplicated storytelling. The movie will make it complicated enough. Mission brings all the complications to it. Yeah. People talk about kind of their fantasies of wanting to see, I want to see this guy direct it and I want to see that guy direct it. And a lot of those names that are suggested, you go, I don't think that person would be happy directing Mission Impossible because they'd want to change it.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Right.
And you'd be fighting the very fabric of it. So a big part of Mission Impossible is accepting that you're an element of Mission Impossible. You are the current custodian of Mission Impossible.
Right.
And I think a lot of filmmakers that people fantasize about directing Mission Impossibles.
Right.
It's my understanding, like Nolan, when he was directing Batman, and this could all be apocryphal, but my understanding was Nolan was kind of like, I don't want the Batcave. I don't want all that stuff, which is quite admittedly absurd.
Yeah.
Who built the Batcave? Like, who put all that crap in there?
Yeah.
It's like, that always kind of weirded me out. But Nolan understood, I'm not bigger than Batman, and I've got to do all that. But you notice, as the movies went on, the Batcave kind of went away.
Yeah.
And, it became Nolan's Batman. Well, I think Chris Nolan would love it or David Fincher would love it if you said, what do you want to do? But Tom's told me about other directors that he's met with for Mission.
Fincher was going to do it at 1.3.
Yes, Fincher was. And Oliver Stone was.
Yeah.
Right, he's going to do 2.
More than once, the conversation started with, do we have to use the theme?
Oh, no. I mean, come on.
But if you want a director to come in and make it their own, that's part of it. And composers too. Composers don't like using the theme song. I've been very fortunate, and the guys that I've worked with were like, I love that theme, give it to me. So it's really the challenge of a Mission Impossible is, are you ready to give yourself over to Mission? And that's the only way the only way to make Mission your own is to kind of,
Give over to it.
Mission is the mask that you put on.
Right.
Right.
I mean, have you, as the current custodian, have you looked at any of those other? I mean, has Tom ever said you want to see what Fincher was going to do or anything like that?
No, we never talked about that stuff. I know, I know a handful of directors that he's met with, and I've heard little snippets of what they wanted to do, but they didn't want to make Mission. They wanted to make Mission theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
I have no interest in making Mission mine. And to really be honest, I think the most toxic thing you can think about as a filmmaker is posterity. I'm in a unique position of being a guy who gets parachuted in on other movies and helps to get them back on track. And one of the things that messes up those movies is a director not wanting to do things because of their perception of their brand.
Okay.
When it's just the right thing to do. It's
Right.
like, this is where the movie is telling you to go. And so I don't consider myself, I don't care how I will be perceived in the history of film. I care that my film works.
Right.
I care that my film works, and I care that my film works forever. That's to me. Somebody was talking to me last night on social media, and they were talking about the awards season, and they felt like, and I just said, it's not the award I'm after in a movie like this. I want repeat viewings.
Yeah.
I just want people to watch this movie. The thought of making a movie this big and putting so much of your life into it, and thinking that the majority of the audience will watch it and go, yeah, and never watch it again. The disposability of a movie of this size is terrifying to me. That's what I care about. The other stuff doesn't matter.
Well, almost every movie of this size is kind of disposable. I mean, you look at so many of the blockbusters, and you're just like, okay, well, on to the next.
That's it, and that's why the little things. When people come to me and say, every time I watch your movie, I find something new in it, I'm like, great, and that's why we do it. I want to compel you to come back and watch it again. I want it to be like that good bottle of wine that you found, that there might be 3 of those left, and then they don't serve it anymore because that's just
right.
I want people to come back and watch the movie again and again.
Well, you spent the last hour talking to 2 people who have come back to that movie again and again. But
thank you.
We can't thank you enough for being on and taking
Please,
time
my
out
pleasure.
Of
This was really fun.
Yeah, anytime you want to come back, let us know.
You're in my neighborhood, man.
Yeah, okay,
After
great.
the next movie, we'll
We'll have you back
Definitely.
on. Third one. Yeah,
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on Light the Fuse.
My pleasure.
All right, that was it. I mean, for now.
For now,
now.
we've got plenty of other episodes coming.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I'm sure we will get McQuarrie back on the show again. There's so many more questions we have to ask him.
Yes.
I forgot to ask him about Scuba Luther, and so I have to get him on the hook to talk to him about Scuba Luther.
That's not something you can ask.
Why wasn't Luther doing the scuba work in Fallout? Which is, I just can't believe. I'm so mad at myself for not asking that. We're going to get him on the hook for that because he's in big trouble. Because Luther's the scuba guy.
He is.
He does the scuba work in 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But now Benji's doing it. Maybe Luther trains.
He's passed the torch.
Yes, Luther has trained Benji in scuba work.
Now I understand why you didn't ask this question.
But we also have other episodes to listen to. If this is the only one you're checking out,
Yes.
definitely check out past episodes. We've interviewed Lauren Balfe, the composer of Fallout, Eddie Hamilton, editor of both Rogue Nation and Fallout.
Wade Eastwood.
Yes, did the stunts for Fallout. We've done episodes on all the movies, just doing big breakdowns, talking about every little detail and the old shows. And one of my favorites is the Unmade Missions.
Yeah.
Where we talk about all the movies that never came to pass from Oliver Stone and David Fincher.
Yeah, when we get back into our making of episodes too, we'll talk more about
Yes.
those.
Oh, that's
as well.
right. The making of episodes have been fun. We've only done the first movie so far, but we'll be doing more going forward. The making of MI2 and so on and so on. They're all really great little nuggets of information that we've caught and found going to the Margaret Herrick Library out here in Los Angeles.
And we've got more great episodes coming up. We've got some big names associated with these movies, some of whom we can talk about, some we can't. We're going to break down the titles of Rogue Nation and Fallout with the Filmograph guys.
Yes.
And we're just really excited about 2019. Just because Fallout is kind of closed out, we are still going full steam ahead. So
the Oscars are coming.
The Oscars are coming.
We're going to be talking about that.
You're not going to want to miss an episode. So please continue to subscribe, rate, and review. It'll be hugely helpful to us and the show. And thanks for listening. Until next week, for Charles, this is Drew. Bye.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.